Welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored. I'm your host, Tej Johannesson. With me, as always, is my co-host Omari Fraser. Omari, we're kind of going off the cuff a little bit today. We're trying to put out as much content as we can, as far as a difference in not just doing some of the same stuff, but having some high school stuff and some junior stuff as well. So you found us a guest today, so I'm going to let you take it over here and introduce our audience to our guest today, and then get going with him on some questions for him.
Yes, absolutely. This magical being, this magical being here, he's lately just been really tearing it up when it comes to content on the junior side of things. Just been getting stuff on rankings, highlighting players, really getting exposure to the league. Just because it's unfortunate that the league doesn't do some things on its own to help drive things, but overall highlighting football experience and really elevating the football standard in the country when it comes to high level athletes, especially in that like junior university range. So definitely quite excited to have the Wizard takes on. Those on Instagram will know him as the Wizard. Definitely excited to have him on and really touching on some topics here just with football and everything. Because I think there's been times where he's posted and we've commented, and we posted and he's commented, and like we just got a lot of football on our mind, and I think we really want to get the best out of football. So the Wizard, hi, well, welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored. Glad to have you, and we're looking forward to diving into some topics here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really excited. First podcast appearance, so it should be fun.
The first official time the Wizard's been out on a podcast. We're hearing the voice. And yes, so everyone knows we'll be referring to him as the Wizard, the Wiz, Wizard of Oz, Wizard of Everly Place, Harry Potter. If you name any wizard, we got him.
Wizards of
I like
Waverly
that.
Place. Yeah.
So hey man, tell us a bit about I guess your football journey so far. Did you play football? Did you not play football? I guess what's been your experience with football so far till to now a bit?
Yeah, well, I got quite the interesting football journey. As you could see, I'm still pretty young. I still got some eligibility left, but basically I played football practically my whole life, and quite frankly, I was a pretty bad player. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. They moved me around quite a bit, but then I stuck at offensive line. I was like 160-pound guard in grade 9 and 10. So you could imagine it was pretty fun in there, but considering for my size, I thought it was quite good. But basically, grade 11 year, I was just a special teamer and a backup because I never really saw a weight room in my life until the pandemic. The pandemic hit, and I was lucky enough to have access to a squat rack and weights, so that's when I really bulked up. And problem with that was my going into my grade 12 year was the pandemic, so I had next to no film, and we actually did get a spring season in that pandemic year. And I worked my way up. I became a two-way starter at left tackle and nose, bulked up to 200 pounds. Obviously, still pretty massive for those positions, right? But anyway, played the first game, banged up my ankle, and then that pretty much went my football career after that. Basically, a career-ending injury, as didn't really have much film to get out to junior teams. And then eventually, when I did reach out to some teams and they offered me, a spot or to come to their camp, I was basically already established in my life outside of football, so I never really had the chance. So basically, this Wizard Takes project was kind of my way to stay involved and get back into the game, because I absolutely love it. I love junior football and what it's doing, and I'm glad I could help promote it and potentially give other kids, the chance I perhaps didn't get.
Nice, and that's fortunate to hear that. You wanted to give back to the game, because I take you still feel like you have lots of energy and passion to give to the game, and I think it's definitely on a side right now that football needs just in the exposure side and getting kids out and everything. Because I know we had sent over a list of questions to go over, but I think this is one now that would be, I think, communal for all of us, is just our takes on like where is football at right now? Like, what's the state of football? We always talk about like the state of the country, state of this, state of that. Like, what's the state of football here in Canada? And just in your eyes and what you're seeing, I know you might see more from that like high school, junior side, but how are you experiencing football right now, just from your outside eyes in?
Well, I think football's it's in a really interesting spot here because you see all the concerns with concussions and CTE and basically the head trauma. So they're experimenting with guardian caps and ways to make the game safer. So that's an interesting part. And their flag football has really grown in the past few years. I think there's like a flag football team in my little Saskatchewan community now. Like, it's getting quite big. So that that kind of affects the landscape, I guess. But that hasn't trickled down into high school or junior quite yet. But I feel like it's only a matter of time before we start seeing those stuff mandated, especially at the younger levels in youth football. So I guess to answer the state, I think football is in a really great spot in Canada right now, actually, partly because of my account, but mostly because of other great accounts. I know in youth sports, it's kind of taken off like post pandemic because Persevere, I think that's how you say it. He's set the stage for a lot of people and given youth sports in particular a lot of exposure. So I kind of tried to copy that model. Not exactly. I still have my own little flair about it with junior football, and obviously you guys are doing great work with high school football, and I know Ignite Athletics is doing some outstanding work in Saskatoon, where I'm from, promoting high school football. So you just see it's getting up there, especially in Canada, to being like the sport. It's getting up there with it might be hard to beat hockey, but it's actually a lot closer than you think. I think it's clearly the second most popular sport in Canada. So I think with all the promotion, especially on social media, it's only a matter of time before it's the biggest sport in all of Canada. And I feel like the CJFL has an opportunity to capitalize on that and potentially steal some great athletes from youth sports, but the promotion just isn't there.
And I like how you said that, because I know there's been some great accounts, Persevere, Ignite, all stepping in ourselves too. Like, it's funny how, like, I know Tej, I know you say like our podcast started just with on the men's side of things, just with like the Alberta Men's Football League, which, you know what, hey, if you're looking to still keep playing football, we're gonna plug you in. I'm gonna get you out to the CA Bucks here with Tej, or get you to Calgary here playing some men's football. We'll get you back in the game. Don't worry about it. But but it's just cool to see how it's evolved and how there's such a need for the exposure side. Because safety side, yes, it's cool, but I think exposure is one thing which, if you look at it from the top down, CFL down, when's the last time we saw a fully packed regular season game outside of Grey Cup or playoffs? So I think it's one of those things now where it's trickling down to where exposure is, I know the fan base is growing and as well dying, in the sense of, those who truly love football and love the game and want to get out and support things. Tej, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it is. I think there's a lot of things with football that have like, specifically, I don't watch a lot of CFL football anymore. I don't really know. I used to be big. My uncle played in the CFL, won a Grey Cup with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 1989 with Kent Austin at quarterback. And he was a backup to Ray Elgard, but caught 5 passes in that Grey Cup game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which is considered to be one of the best Grey Cup games of all time, by the way, 1989. And I used to watch a lot of it, and I haven't watched as much anymore. And I think, to be honest with you, from an adult perspective, it's because the betting on the NFL is just way better. Like, you just can't bet on CFL the same way. You don't play fantasy the same way. The landscape of watching professional sports in general has just really changed with how many different ways you can bet on games. I'm a big DraftKings guy. I love playing daily fantasy on DraftKings, and I've won a decent amount of money doing it, because if you put, some time and effort into it, you can get pretty good at it. It's actually it's a skill, really. And a lot of people really walk into those things and have no idea what they're doing and lose money. But for me, that's been a big thing, is like just, the betting and all the ways you can kind of be a part of the game now. And the CFL hasn't really caught up with that, I think, as much. Like, I think you can do certain things, but it's just hard because the popularity is not there. But I do think that Wizard's correct when he says that youth football is on the rise and numbers are on the rise. Like, I'm seeing it where I coach here in Central Alberta. I'm seeing the numbers grow year after year. I'm seeing female football take off. Like, it's getting really popular with the ladies. I'm seeing our youth programs grow and grow and grow. And I agree with Wizard in saying that I think football is becoming quite popular. And the reality is, compared to hockey, it's way cheaper, and it's not as time consuming. So there's a lot of things that are pluses when it comes to football. And then on top of that, you've got the things like the flag football. So I do agree with that. And I think that doing these programs and what you're doing with Wizard Takes is really good. So talk to me about Wizard Takes a little bit. So I guess explain to our viewers what you do, what your goal of it is, what kind of made you want to start this. And like, you've got a pretty decent following and as well. So what did you kind of do to get there, and what are you kind of doing with it, and where do you hope to kind of see it go as you cover junior football?
Yeah, it's a long story. It's a complicated story. We could probably dedicate a whole podcast to the formation of Wizard Takes. But I'll give you guys
what we're here for.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys the short order. So basically, I had this account it was originally a fantasy football account. It was called the Fantasy Football Wizard because I'm a big fantasy football enthusiast. So I had this account, right? But I used it, but I just stopped. So I still had it. It was on my Instagram. So basically, how the Wizard Takes that started is that I was basically, the CJFL was posting their all-stars and their rankings, and they're pretty horrible, like they usually are. There's some I probably shouldn't say that. There's some
No, you can. That's okay.
There's some notable snubs where I'm like, and still this year was equally as questionable calls. So I'm usually a pretty opinionated guy, so I voiced my opinion and basically said, these all Canadians it's a bunch of nonsense. The fans should have a percentage of the say. Kind of me just joking around, trying to be provocative. And they are probably going to live to regret this day, whoever that social media admin is, because it changed the course of Canadian junior football. They commented back to me and said, "Why don't you administer that vote for us? It's a great idea. We're always looking for volunteers." Can't remember exactly what they said, but it was along those lines. And the timing on this was absolutely immaculate, because this was, I think, one of the first days of my reading week for university. So I live in Saskatoon, so I went home, and it's not as much to do where I'm from in Saskatoon. So I had time on my hands. So I spent that time manually making a bracket with and bracket of the players, and then we did the fans all Canadians, which some people remember. That was that was the first ever post I did. I think I might have done one before, but that was the first one. So that's pretty much how it started. And then we did good. Looking back now, those numbers were horrible. But in my mind, I'm like, oh wow, it was pretty successful, because I didn't know any better. Who could have imagined what, I'd never would have thought. I thought it'd just be something fun to do for the brag, and then I'd be done with it. But the fan response was so positive to it that I just kept pushing out more content, and then it really hit a stride. It really hit its stride like this past spring or summer. I'd like to say, in right around when the CFL started, I started posting about current CFL players that played in the CJFL, and those posted amazing. It started getting reposted by actual CFL players that play that currently play in the league and former players. So then that was just, motivating for me. And I got so many positive messages from people about how it's great that I'm promoting the game and they love that I'm doing. So I kind of just stuck with it. Now we're here today making it on this great podcast talking about the Wizard Takes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm excuse me. I'm looking at your account right now, and you do some cool things with like, I think you do some unique things, right? So like your one of your recent posts is top 5 long snappers, which I think that's just amazing because those guys don't get enough credit, And so I want to know though, did you pick this out of your ass or did you do some research? Because how the hell do you know that takes some commitment to find the top 5 long snappers? I like that.
Well, what I always try to do is I like to give it back to the fans, right? Because I'm obviously just one guy. It's hard to follow every single thing that goes on in the CJFL. I mean, I obviously know what's going on, but particularly in Ontario where there's like next to no media coverage, it's hard to find. So I really lean into what the fans and players say. So some people will call that bias, but at the end of the day, the whole All-Star rankings and All Canadians is also biased. There's no, escaping it. So I do my best to give everyone a fair chance. Like, I guess I'll go off whoever has the most votes, which is a flawed system. But I also use my own judgment because I know the Regina Thunder long snapper Matthew McCauley was rated as the number 1 long snapper in all of Canada coming out of his class, and I saw him. He actually came on to my Wizard Talks Live, which I discontinued, but we're bringing back. But he's an amazing long snapper. He has a real future at it. And also the Hilltops long snapper, because I watched the Thunder in Hilltops because that's where I'm from. He has amazing long snaps, and the thing that really separates him is he gets in there on specials. I think he was rated as was very highly ranked in the Prairie Conference based on special teams tackles. So long snapper is kind of more of a kind of just for fun because it's hard to really like gauge like what's a good long snapper. You have to physically watch the games to see it, but even then, to the naked eye, it's like you only notice a long snapper if it's a bad snap. But basically, I just did that because I basically want to promote as many players as possible and get as many players' names out there as I can. So that's basically what I did.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic, and I think giving love to those guys is really important, and I think that shows your level of detail. And I also think that going to the fans is the right thing to do. Omari and I have talked about that. I think in every league, choosing all-stars becomes kind of a shit show, and I've been, especially with people like when you're choosing offensive or especially offensive line, because there's no stats to go after, we should be asking defensive linemen, who was the toughest guy to go against? Who made your job difficult? And those things matter because they're the ones that are competing against those guys, and then fans that have watched the team and notice players. So I think that's a good way to do it. You've got, top 5 kickers, defensive backs, linebackers, defensive linemen, just a lot of really good content. And it seems like you get quite a few views. Like that top 5 long snappers got 15.8K.
I think that was the most viewed one too.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
Which goes to show you that that's kind of just unique. So that's really cool on what you're doing. And you just mentioned something about Wizard Live. Is that something you used to do and are bringing back?
Well, I mean, I kind of just did it for fun because this is when I had a job, so I didn't have to do school all the time. And this is when there's the off season, so it was easy to find times to just go live, and I would just talk to whatever players wanted to come on. So it's basically like this. I basically just interviewed them and had them talk, but I kind of got sick of it because it was, I don't know, it wasn't the most exciting for me because. I mean, it was nice to get the players' voices out there, but I noticed like I went live a couple of times in the season, literally just me talking about the CJFL, and those lives got like triple the amount of views. I think my most recent live, which was just about a month ago, we peaked at like 500 viewers had 500 total viewers, sorry, on like a random Saturday night. So that was crazy, and it was literally me just talking. So I think we do have a guest lined up, but it's gonna be a different format. I'll just say that. You'll have to wait and see, but I think it'll be a lot more entertaining for the viewers.
Good. That's cool. Wizard Takes on Instagram when you want to follow him and watch that. Omari, go ahead.
I love the persona that you got going. Do you ever watch Bridgerton?
No, I think my mom has, but
So the point I'm getting to here is where in the show there's a persona of one of the characters, I guess this beat writer called Lady Whistledown, and like she basically goes off. She's someone who is she's like of like of the town behind the scenes, but like writes about everything, but like no one knows her identity. So of course everyone's trying to guess who it is and that. Like I really love the idea now where this idea and persona of the wizard can be used as like a way to help really bring exposure, and like you don't need to go around and handwrite and press letters and everything, but the takes and everything. Because like one part that I really enjoyed out of your content was the preseason rankings, where you really went in and dove in on like who's the coach, who would be the MVP out of this team, their proposed record, and all that, and like the sleeper. And I really love that because I feel like that can help highlight some players, bring the team together, and really give an inside look to each team. Because I played from 2013, 2017 with the Calgary Colts, and I try and do as much as I can as an alumni to help out with going to spring camps and things here and there. And I want to do more and all that. But I just think it's really cool just to see these things come out, because it's such a dynamic, and junior football itself is such a unique period of life for a lot of players, because there's no school. All you got to do is come play football and take care of your life outside, which could be school outside, which is not required. Go work a job, probably required because you got bills to pay, and come and play ball and just work out and get better, because you need to develop if you want to grow and everything. So my question I was leading into here now is where, looking at the junior side of things and the growth and whatnot. One of your takes was with the All-Star game, which I think we both have some communal takes where it's like, I think there should be crossover games. I know you were saying there should be All-Star games. What are some of your takes that you love to see the CJFL really, take in, bite on, and really take and run for next season?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Well, first I want to say thanks for the kind words about the team previews. A lot of that really came down to me building the relationships with players or coaches that were able to give me the information. And the part I loved about that was the sleepers. There's some sleepers like the Hilltops, Corbin Eben. No one was talking about him. I said he's a sleeper, and he led the PFC in rushing. Even on my top 50 list, Noah from the Sun, the CJFL had him ranked at number 40. I had him ranked at number 3. So it kind of shows you the difference in who knows what, because clearly the information that's been given to me has been proven to be pretty solid, I would say. But anyway, to go to your question, I agree with you about the interconference games, and actually, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I heard
you can say what you want.
there may be teams that are in the works for a game to be played next season. I'll say that it makes sense logistically. I can't confirm any of the details yet, but I did hear a rumor that there's certain teams that are considering that. And geographically, you could. I'm not going to say anything, but you could take a pretty good guess, and you might be.
Oh, right. It should be. Off the top of my head, I'm like, this is now with me thinking it. Like, it should be either Colts in the Sun, Edmonton in the Sun, like anything within a 6-hour, 7-hour bus ride, easily doable. So if I'm going off my call it the Mario Fraser, if you take anywhere, I guess PFC, BFC wise, where it's just like a bus ride across, because. You just in my 5th year, we had to bus ride 14 hours to Winnipeg.
You
bus
guys
ride
bus there.
dude, we had to bus there and back. That was a brutal bus ride. So a bus ride to the Okanagan Sun, nice sunny thing, middle of summer. That'd be quite the preseason game or whatever game it's going to be, but that'd be quite the crossover game either way. So that's my take on it. I think it should line up it, but I'll let you get back into what you were saying there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. That's what, like, when you consider travel, I mean, this is before I followed the CJFL, so maybe you guys know better, maybe some of the viewers know better about. They did used to have interconference games, I'd like to say, before the pandemic. I don't know what years, maybe it was when you played, but I believe they did have them. I don't know what happened to that. I would guess it would have been budget concerns, especially when you consider some of the further teams. Like, no one could, like, you can't play a game against an Ontario team. Like, Winnipeg, I don't even know who the closest Ontario team would be to Winnipeg, but I'd imagine that'd still be quite the far drive. So that's just not feasible. I mean, Ontario, that's a whole other conversation about if they're really on the same level as the other two conferences. But I would, in my opinion, now, people tell me people always tell me it's budget this, but I honestly just don't buy it. There's so many, and I've talked about this as well. There's so many areas they could, like, cut costs and, allocate their budget more effectively, but they don't. But in a lot of teams, I know the Regina Thunder have played a preseason games the last 3 or 4 years in, like, different surrounding cities. I know this past year they played in Medicine Hat against the Calgary Colts, and I think they played in Brandon one year and in Yorkton another year. So they play preseason games. I'm not sure why. Like, I don't know if Saskatoon has played preseason games or if Edmonton, like, either the Edmonton teams have. But I mean, it could really just be like an out of conference game, like how they do down in the States, right? Especially for teams that are able to travel that distance. My only guess as to why they don't do that would be the difference in schedule, since BC starts, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before the Prairie Conference. That would probably be because if you were to play a preseason game, it'd be like in the middle of July, when I think Prairie camps are just ramping up. So that's probably my only guess as to why they don't do that. But I would say there really should be some workarounds to that, because I think all teams and members in the league could get behind it, even if it's just you play a conference game, then in like 2 weeks you play like an out of conference game, right? It's like a preseason. There's so many different avenues that they could go around, and I really think it would be a great idea for the league. I mean, I've thrown out some great ideas for the league, but I don't think they. I'm not sure. I just don't think they'll do it, unfortunately.
Here's so let's all right. Let's just preface this to where we got a CJFL executive listening to this right now. They're trying to wrap their head around the Wizard takes, and I guess all of us younger social media guys with a voice here saying do this, do that. What would be like your first level of implementation to help get the ball rolling? So you're now in the CJFL board meeting. You're the president. What's your first, call it, order to the court?
Well, see, I don't know how much I want to say, because I try to be as PC as possible. But
I'll add this. You can let it rip. I'd say, not say let it rip, but you can dive into it. I guess just be ready to back it up when I guess this comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten in trouble with them a few times. So, but it's gone to the point where it doesn't even matter. We have so much support. The Wizard Takes fans are really the best. We so much support with it. So, it's a great thing. That's why we're still doing it, despite the CJFL not being a big fan of it. But my big thing would be, if I had the power, obviously I'd have to see the finances and the budget, because the long form posts I'm making are without that knowledge, right? So all these ideas sound great, and I'm sure perhaps they would want to do some, but maybe they just don't have the budget to. But I'm just gonna put that aside just for the sake of this conversation. First my first choice would be to basically it would be the media department, because I mean that kind of goes with what I'm doing, right? But would be really they could really save a lot of money if they almost basically just use the great content creators like the Langley Mob Squad, Canadian Football Fanatics, Peak Photography, that have Sask Football Talks, that all have great interest in the league and want to cover it. If they basically just reallocated the media money to basically just pay them as honorariums, which would help, entice them to post more content. I've posted all my content for free. I've gotten offered money. I've turned it down every time. But it would entice them to post more. So then that would help with engagement instead of just having one person who, probably has a lot of a workload for just being a part-time job. Have about 4 or 5 different people paying them so much less. You could get a lot more extensive media coverage in all 3 provinces, which I think would help grow the game and the league on so many different levels, because the CGFL really has such a unique product. They don't have it in the States where you could just come and play football. Like maybe school just isn't your thing. You could just come and play football, and then you have an easy pathway. You could start practicing in the CFL right away, and that's just not promoted. That should be the number one thing that it's being promoted as, but it's basically just promoted as, oh, you weren't good enough to make U Sports, which is the furthest thing from the truth. But that's what it is now. So if I were to be in charge, it would be really overhauling that media department. And then I think with that, if you were to do that, you'd then be able to see more interest in the league, which would lead to, more revenue for them. And they would be able to allocate those funds to use in other areas like out of conference games, the all-star games, better streaming in the league, maybe perhaps getting a media deal with the company. So that's basically what I would do. You got to start pretty small, and then it's kind of like a domino effect, I think, at least.
I'm just kind of wondering, because I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I say a lot of the same things in regards to the Alberta Football League that Omari and I play in, the men's football league here in Alberta. And I feel like the board seems, and I guess this is like common, it seems, across all boards, is there seems to be this reluctance to grow and change. There seems to be this like we're stuck in our ways, and when you bring an idea, all you hear is why it can't be done. Oh, we can't do that because of this. We can't do that because of that. Instead of, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's figure out how we could do that. And what, like, cause I'm just sick and tired in my life in general of people. And I've run into coaches that I've coached with that were like this, where I would like have an idea, because I'm an outside the box thinker. I always have been. I don't like to just fall back and run I'm the D coordinator. I don't just like to run a 4-3 cover 3 defense. Like that's boring as crap to me. So I like to be creative and do a bunch of different things and think outside the box. And well, what if we only rush 3 and rush and what if we don't rush anybody off the edge? Because teams are so used to people rushing off the edge. They've got all these different plays where they leave the edge rusher and they counter and they pull the guard into them. Well, what if we just don't rush the edge and we just rush 3 guys up the middle gaps and then we keep guys on the outside? Like just these little things, and you'd be met with like, oh no, well, you can't do that because we've never done it that way. And that shit just honestly pisses me off. What is it that you're finding with the reluctance? Like you kind of mentioned, you've gotten quote unquote in trouble. Obviously they can't do anything to you, but like they get upset at someone like yourself who's trying to promote the game. Like I don't get why they would be upset, other than some sort of ego of why you're out here promoting the game for free and have all these, there's great ideas to grow revenue in the league. You can't tell me that you couldn't find some sort of like TELUS Optic TV deal for junior football, and that wouldn't be watched by a lot of people if it was promoted properly. I would be watching those games. People would be watching those games all the time. There are hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this country that have played junior football. and that it meant a lot to them throughout their lives, and they're still interested in the game. I'm one of them. I haven't played since 2009 when we lost the national championship to Andrew Harris when I was playing for the Edmonton Wildcats. But I love junior football. It was some of the best time in my life, and Omari and I talk about it quite often. So what exactly is it with the people in the power of junior football that they seem to be kind of upset at you and not really listening to our ways to kind of grow themselves?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I haven't really interacted with the heads of the heads. I have gotten some messages from the conferences. I guess it's just a social media admin, no one that has. I mean, maybe they have sway, but they're upset with me. But I honestly I feel like you summed it up pretty good. I mean, like what you guys are doing for the Alberta League is amazing. I mean, I've never heard of it in my life. I know plenty of people from Alberta. I've never heard of this league until I saw your guys' podcast. And honestly, it's really good thing because I know some graduated people from. I don't know how popular it is in Edmonton, but I mean now with this podcast, some people that graduate from the Colts and Wildcats and Huskies, maybe may hear about this league now, and they'll influence them to join. So I think like what you guys are doing is just fantastic. But I honestly, I feel like I don't have any facts to back this up, but I feel like you summed it up pretty good. It's just kind of like the old boys club, people reluctant to change or to try different things, right? Because it does take a little innovation to. I mean, some of these ideas are pretty straightforward, but I guess like with media wise, like you do have to be a little crazy to start an account, call yourself Wizard Takes, and promote Canadian junior football, right? So I feel like from what people have told me, and the Mob Squad is really a pioneer in the space, and he knows so much about the CJFL. He's been in it forever, but from what he's told me is like the people in charge are basically just, like you said, reluctant to change, and they always just blame budget. But I don't necessarily buy it, because they have this massive annual general meeting every year where they fly out the presidents and the coaches and whoever. I think it's all paid for. It's like 20, 30, who knows how many, like tens of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you use that budget to allocate it somewhere else. You could just do a meeting on Zoom, because I've never been at the meetings. I hope I could get to the meeting. I highly doubt it, but I really hope they could get me at the meeting. And maybe next year, when I believe the Canadian Bull would be the Prairie team, so it's likely coming to Saskatchewan. Maybe I could attend the meeting next year. But people say it's basically just a big meeting that essentially nothing gets done. It could have been accomplished on Zoom. So to answer your question, it's pretty much the same deal. I think it's just the people in charge are probably the same people that have been in charge in forever and are just reluctant to change, I would say.
Yeah, and what I kind of find with these things too is when you tell me the story of they're flying in people to have these meetings, it seems like they would rather do that and spend this money on themselves than actually grow the league. Because in their mind, they're thinking, well, what's wrong with the league? They're not thinking, what can we make the league? It's like I always say to my kids that I coach, strive for perfection, but you'll never get there. There has never been a perfect athlete in the history of the world. The best basketball player is Michael Jordan. He lost a lot of games, didn't win a championship every year. The best golfer is Tiger Woods. He did not win every tournament he was in, meaning perfection is unattainable. You can't get there, but you got to keep striving for it. And it's the same thing with like building a league. It's like, why ever stop building? Why ever stop? Why do you ever think, okay, we've made it here? For me, that makes no sense. Keep going. Find the next step. Find the next way to break through. Find the next way to make this game more popular. And that's what Omari and that's literally the reason we started the podcast in the very beginning, was because people like yourself and many people had never heard of the Alberta Football League. But for people like Omari and myself, the Alberta Football League and hundreds of players over decades that have played in this league, the Alberta Football League, has been a lifesaver and an amazing place for many people to play, and have met some of their best friends. And we tell those stories all the time when we do that. So it's the same thing for junior. And I'm just not a believer in like status quo. I'm not a believer in standing still. I believe if you're standing still, why keep living? I don't really get it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, keep going, what else do you have to live for? So I don't understand. But it seems to be a common thing with these kind of old boys club type thing. And you almost kind of have to wait for the dinosaurs to die out, as kind of cruel as that sounds. But that seems to be kind of the case before you can get kind of meaningful change, especially if there is money involved and is there shady stuff that goes on. I don't want to make any accusations, but these are the things that kind of go through my mind when you hear kind of these stories and people being upset at someone like yourself, who's literally just out here trying to promote the players of the league, which I think a lot of these boards forget. The players make the league, and everything. You don't have a job if you don't have these players. So, and I think a lot of these players have sacrificed a lot for what they do. So I appreciate what you do, man. I think it's really cool finding your stuff, and I hope it keeps going. I hope it keeps building for you, just like our podcast. I hope it keeps building, and I hope we can even help each other with this, because we want to be involved in the junior football game as well. We want to really be able to promote this, especially with, some of the championships coming up. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. And it's cool for us to meet like-minded people like yourself that just are out here loving football. Omari and I pay for this podcast ourselves. We get lucky every once in a while to get some sponsorship, but we're out here for the love of the game and spending our own money, trying to promote the game of football because we love it so much, and taking time. My wife's 6 months pregnant right now. She doesn't love, when I, have to take time away, but she understands and respects that this is something that I like doing. And so we try to do it. So, mutual respect, man. I really think what you're doing is really cool. Go ahead, Amari.
Just as we head to the wrap up here, we got the PFC, BFC, BCFC, and the OFC finals coming up. I think OFC gets the automatic bye to nationals. What's kind of your take here up with the upcoming weekend of games? I think we have Regina versus Sask, and then we have the Sun versus the Rebels. I think for our next upcoming episodes, for everyone listening, we're going to try and get either I could try and get a preview of each team on, or then wait till maybe the national semifinals to then do a nice little roundup of that. But what's your take on how you think these upcoming games are going to go, and then how the bracket will finish out?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, what you guys have done, and it sounds like we're all, like you said, like-minded people that are just trying to grow the game. So I think it's amazing that we're able to discover, and hopefully, like you said, we could use each other to help grow the game, because that's what I've tried to do with my collaborations with some of the other creators. Because at the end of the day, I don't really care about my following or how many likes I get. I care about the league growing. So part of that is by helping out, using I guess my following to direct people to other great creators. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's always a mutually beneficial partnership, because then you find fans on each side that figure, oh well, this guy's doing good stuff too. So to answer your question about the prediction, so I'll get the OFC out of the way since it's such a slam dunk. St. Clair's walking through to the host in the Natty. The second best team in the OFC was London, and St. Clair beat them 68-0. Like it's not even a competition. Like,
Jesus, what's going on in Ontario?
Yeah, St. Clair is. People want to jump on Ontario and say how bad the league is, and I mean, yeah, the bottom is pretty bad, but St. Clair would legitimately challenge like almost every single. They're going to give. It's going to be in their home stadium. They're going to give the semifinal winner a real challenge. It's going to be tough because they're such a steep you're going from basically beating teams 68-0 to potentially playing, I don't know, the whoever you think's going to come out. You're playing the Okanagan Sun with Noah, who broke Reggie Bush's rushing record. You could play West Shore, who just broke so many records last year and is continuing that momentum this year. Or the Hilltops or Thunder, just the class of the league, in my opinion. So it's gonna be tough for them. But I think they're an amazing team. I think if they played in the BCFC or PFC full time, they would be right up there with the best teams. So OFC, that one's for sure. I'll go to the BCFC. I think Langley would have given Okanagan a better run for their money, but West Shore really played good last week against Langley. They lost to them the first two times they played each other, and I mean, it really came down to their defense. I think they forced like the Rams QB. I can't remember his name because he is the backup. I think he threw 5 interceptions, and it was a close game. And they found I can't remember his last name, but on West Shore, this he was an All Canadian. I think it's like Gio Linduzzi or something, a very Italian name. He is a All Canadian defensive back last year, and they moved. Then he's still playing DB, and he was playing running back last game, and he ran for like over 120 yards. He was a big difference maker in that game. And I think it's going to be closer than people think, because people forget earlier this year, West Shore was beating Okanagan late in the fourth quarter, and they basically just choked the game away, and Okanagan found a way to win. Okanagan has had some really tight games. They almost lost to the VI Raiders early in the season. I think it was like a 7-point game. Valley was beating them for most of the first half, so they're not as dominant as people think, but I feel like I feel like Okanagan's just too good. They're going to find a way to win, and they're going to head to Saskatchewan for the semifinal. And then the PFC final, this is where I'm really going to get myself in trouble here, because my two biggest fan bases are Regina and Saskatoon. I think if you combine, I think Regina has like 10% of my fall, or I should look, but I think if you were to combine them, they have like 18 to 20% of all my followers. So I'm going to piss off some fans here when I say this, because I know guys on both teams very well. I almost don't even want to make a pick, but I will. This is tough. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. That's so tough. I'm gonna think. I'm gonna plead the fifth on this one.
Wow.
Well,
Says he's going to answer and then pleads the fifth. I like that.
How about this?
Little trickery. Little wizard magic.
I know from yeah, a little abracadabra there. I just know with my time playing with the Colts, like it's you have a team, like you have the Hilltops, rich in history, rich in culture, rich in cover 3. Maybe send the hammer at you when you get to the 20-yard line. You know, they're a team that is stuck to their thing, and like they force you to be perfect. You know, they're a team that's gonna like, and I haven't watched any film of the Hilltops recently, but I'd imagine just because of how they do things, how they run in the culture, like I imagine it's probably the same, where it's cover 3, a lot of cover 3, cover 3 with a hammer blitz here and there, and then on the offensive side, very strict timing routes, 1, 2, 3, ball's gone. Like,
yeah,
I remember that from 20. I just remember seeing that in film a lot. Just when we play the Hilltops, and it's still the same. Yeah. So you have a team that's rich in history. So, you know, a team like that, that's so congruent and like got to be perfect along the way. Can Regina now? Again, I haven't seen any film of Regina. Can they be perfect as well, or as close to perfect to then put together those 10-play drives, 12-play drives, be in the right position to stop to you know, make turnovers and get interceptions. So I guess you can continue pleading the fifth, but with what you've seen, do you think?
I'll say this: if the Hilltops play the way they did the last time they played each other, they're winning the game. If the Hilltops play as good as they did against the Thunder the last time around, I think the score is like 36-12 or something like that. The Hilltops just played so good. Like, they were unbelievable. The Thunder had they had a good run game going, but then it seemed like when they did, they were just too pass happy, and they were not able to throw. They were not able to throw at all. It was mostly all like you said, cover 3. It was a lot of underneath routes, and offensively, I think Corbin Eben ran for like almost 200 yards, and the real factor was the quarterback play by Trey Reader, who would be. I talked to some Thunder guys after the game. I was like, "Yo, where was your pass rush?" They said they couldn't get to him. The ball came out so quick, and you would throw it to a spot to either Drake Douglas or to Teal Fontaine, and they would come down with it. So if they play as good as they did last time, the Thunder aren't beating them. That being said, the past 2 weeks may have changed because the Huskies played the Hilltops extremely close 2 weeks in a row, not just in Edmonton, but Saskatoon as well. It was tied late in the fourth, and what changed the game was the Huskies missed it. It was tied with like 7 minutes to go. The Huskies missed a field goal, and the Hilltops housed it, and then they put up another touchdown to win by 2 scores, but that was a really tight game. And then the Thunder just did whatever they wanted against the Calgary Colts in the semifinal. I think that game was 64-7. It wasn't even close. They just ran all over the Colts. Like I think they ran for like almost 400 yards. So it really depends on what version we get. If the Hilltops play up to their potential and as good as they did last time around, I feel like it will be really tough for the Thunder. I would say what the Thunder need to do is really the last year in the final. What the problem with them was, I think they conceded about 3 safeties when they needed to pick up. They just lost the field position battle, and that's what makes Saskatoon so good. What the Thunder need to do is they need to lean on that run game. They have 2 great running backs, the running back of the year in the PFC and Sadiq, who is the backup to Rylan Likert, who set the Thunder all-time rushing record, rushed for over 1,000 last year. He was banged up, but they got a two-headed monster there. They really have to lean on the ground game. So I think it's a toss-up. I think it really just comes down to the game plan and execution, which both these teams are well coached. I would say obviously Tom Sargent is the best coach in all of junior football, but Scott McCauley is right up there. And if not for Tom Sargent, I think you would have so many more championships. So I'll continue to plead the fifth on my pick, but I'll give you guys the Wizard analysis on the game, I guess, because I gotta look out for the brand, because I know I get accused of bias on both sides. People say I glaze the Hilltops too much, and people literally think I play for the Thunder. So I'm basically deciding. You guys won't know. You won't know. We'll see. It'll be a great game on Sunday. I'll be there.
You know what pisses me off about that though? Ladies and gentlemen, if you follow someone like Wizard and you enjoy his content and he makes a pick, shut up and take the pick. Like, this is why he's doing what he's doing. This is why you guys want. This is why people listen to the podcast here too. We get this all the time, Omari. We sit here and make picks, and guys are all pick. Well, I had an entire team try to come at me because I said the weakness of their team was their DBs, which was true. It didn't mean they were bad. It was just their weakness. It was still good. They won the national championship. But if I was an offensive coordinator, that would be the place I would attack, because they're better against the run than they were the pass, in my opinion. And I got shit on that for that. But then that's why you listen, people. It has nothing to do with bias. I'm not out here making picks. Wizard isn't out here making picks because of bias. We're trying to do our best job to make the correct pick because we want to be right. This is the thing. I want to be right more than I want to choose my bias, right? I'm not going to sit here and I love the Minnesota Vikings. They're doing really well, and they might actually win the Super Bowl this year. But in most years, I'm not coming out and saying the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl, definitely. Right? Because that would be a biased pick and I'd look like an idiot. Now, this year, they actually are pretty legit. But my point being, don't be mad that you're getting from the content creators what you want from them. And just because they don't agree with you, that's okay. Then when they're wrong, or you can make fun of them or do whatever you want. So enjoy it, because then you're going to scare people off from doing this stuff. So enjoy the takes. It's not biased. I'm going to pick Regina. Now, the reason for it is a couple things. One, and I don't have to worry about pissing people off because I don't know even how many people in Saskatoon listen, but I hate the Saskatoon Hilltops. I'm annoyed at the Saskatoon Hilltops. They annoy me. They win every single year. Now, in 2009, my Edmonton Wildcats went down and beat them in the Prairie Football Championship, and then we went on and won Ontario, and then we lost by 50 to Andrew Harris and the Vancouver Island Raiders in the national championship game. But we still beat Saskatoon, which was great, in Saskatoon, by the way, which was awesome on a very muddy day. But I don't really like them. And I kind of want to see Regina win. And so I am biased, and I'm making a bias pick. But that's just because I'm kind of sick and tired of Saskatoon winning. But for real, I think that what the Huskies did to Saskatoon multiple weeks in a row, and specifically last week in Saskatoon, I think that puts a little bit of doubt in Saskatoon minds, and I think it puts a lot of confidence in Regina's minds that these guys are beatable and there is a plan to success. And I think if they can find and execute that plan to success, they can be successful. And I appreciate you saying this, Wizard, because not enough people say this, but I am a huge win the field position battle guy. Huge guy on that. I think that is one of the most underrated and important things in every level of football is to win that field position battle. Now, specifically in high school football, when punters are not that great, you have to find a way to win that field position battle. And I think that Saskatoon has always done that very well. They play with that as a part of their philosophy. So I agree with you on that. Omari, anything else before you want to close this out?
Just want to, I guess we're good to wrap it up here. Wizard, anyone you want to shout out? Any players you want to shout out here before we wrap it up here? I guess actually, here's one thing I'll say. What are your plans for the off season?
Oh, the off season, yeah. Well, I'll answer that first. See, what we're gonna do is see. I'm kind of dry on content for the next few days. I got off before I was on this podcast. I was on the phone with one of the players, and they said I should do a preview for the game. So I'll think about that. I'll see if it's in the schedule for either the BCFC Championship or PFC, and then we're going to continue with. I'll do the Fans All Canadians like I did last year because that was actually a lot of fun. So I'll do that again. Maybe I'll do my own award predictions, I guess, or what I deem to be the award winners, because the way the CJFL does it is just terrible, I think. They have maybe this is just the NFL fan in me, but they have the same. Whoever wins offense, pretty much whoever wins offense MVP is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. Where I disagree with that, I think it should be differentiated unless someone is just running away with it. That's just my opinion. So Noah's just gonna run away with all the awards where he's clearly. I don't know if they do a CGFL MVP, but I mean, I'm gonna do it because I think they should. He's clearly the CGFL MVP, but then when you do Offensive Player of the Year, I like to give it to someone else, right? Just like they do in the NFL. So I might do stuff like that. I'm probably gonna put up another story post asking the fans what they want to see, because when I run out of ideas, that's what I do. And then I'll probably do. I don't want to spoil too much, but I'll probably do a countdown again of I did top 25 last year. Maybe I'll up it to the top 50 players from this past year, and then probably think about doing stuff like maybe people send it in more plays, like underrated players. Probably more youth. I'll post a lot about the youth sports guys that commit, and I hope I could, help some of the CJFL players maybe get youth sports opportunities. But I guess basically whatever the fans want, the players want, that's what I'll do. I'm basically their servant. I'm here to serve them whatever content they want. I'm gonna deliver it. So the players I want to shout out. See, there's not many because I'll get called for bias because like Tej making such a great point about people getting mad because I'm having an opinion or making a prediction just because you disagree with it or it's going against your team, like you said, discourages people. I mean, I personally find it funny. Like people have been, when they win a game, they've been tagging me. Then when they lose, I tag them. So Nice little banter because
Yeah, that's
Wizard
good.
does have some trolling tendencies. But I would like to shout out Raiden Maston from the Valley Huskers. He's a pretty well known player out there. He's an amazing player, even better guy. He's a really tremendous guy. He's a great guy. Uh, there's a lot of other great players. Caleb Charlton, linebacker for the VI Raiders, good Sask boy. Also a really great guy. He's gonna have a huge year this year. And I just want to shout out Canadian Football Fanatics. He's doing an amazing job, not just the CGFL, U Sports, and CFL as well. He's a big friend of mine. Haven't been on his show yet. Hopefully, I could get on sometime because he's a great guy. Peak Photography is doing great work for the Okanagan Sun. I had him in. Well, I had all the guys I'm about to talk about it in my predictions. Maybe we'll have you guys next year on the PFC side. But those guys, the guys I worked with, and the Langley Mob Squad, those guys were just tremendous. I'm glad I was able to work with them, and I really hope everyone follows them because they do great work. Just like I hope after this podcast, more guys follow you and listen to your show because what you guys are doing is just great for the league, and I really hope to see your guys' Alberta League grow, and I think it will after this podcast.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. And yes, if anyone new is listening to us, we are always looking to expand what we cover as well. So if more people from the CGFL community are listening to this podcast and want to see us tap into that and maybe collab with the Wizard, we're more than happy to do whatever people want us to do, kind of like what Wizard was saying, right? It really is up to the fans of these things, and that's why we do this. We definitely don't do this for ourselves. We do this for people that are listening, to entertain people and to promote the game. So yeah, reach out to us if you want to see us do some more CGFL content. Amari and I have a lot of connections within the CGFL too. Amari's played and is really big in the Calgary community, and a lot of former Alberta Football League players are actually coaching the CGFL. So and we've had a few university coaches on as well, promoting their programs too. So we've kind of touched everything, and we want to continue to do that. And I've seen a little bit of the Canada Football Fanatics guy, and maybe we should have a Wizard. You know what we should do is we should organize like we don't have to be like the CGFL and fly people in, but a Zoom kind of like collaboration of all the football content creators in Canada, and maybe just come up with some ideas of. You know what I mean? Like just kind
that would be an amazing idea.
Yeah.
That'd be an absolute heater of an episode if we were to do it where we got us here, full Fanatics, Langley Mob, anyone persevere as well. Have like maybe I might make that a mastermind, put that on a course, buy our course.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, that'd actually be a good idea.
That would be a blast. I would totally be down to do that.
Well, let's keep talking. Well, I really appreciate you, man, for coming on, and I look forward to speaking to you soon in the future. Omari, go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, hey, appreciate your time here, Wizard, and everything, and it was great to have your perspective on and really get to dive into some of those, chefed up ideas you have. Which I'm like, man, he's always cooking. He's always cooking with the heat. One other thing I want to plug into. For all the fans for Wizard who are listening from Regina, Saskatoon, hey, one question that we've always been asking here on the Alberta Football League side is we want to ideally expand the league to get either Regina men's team or a Sask men's team. Now, Hilltoppers don't go creating a senior Hilltops men's team because we're trying to win here. Even though I granted that'd be a sick game. By the way, we want to invite you guys to come to the Alberta Football League, or hey, it's an easy road trip to get out there. So. We can make that collaboration work here. I know there's tons of alumni probably in the Regina, Saskatchewan area that want to play some football. So hey, football league, all you gotta do over 18, and you don't get paid to play. So make sure I'm putting that as a nice little banner for everyone to know. You don't get paid to play here in a league, but you get to put on some pads and take out your weekly stress. I think we're all happier because of it. There's a very famous running back in our league, Tony, who saved a lot in therapy just with playing in our league. So put that out there. But hey, Wizard, thank you again. For those tuning in, you can tune in to all of our episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All of our episodes get posted there. We're definitely gonna have a teaser coming out here too, so it'll be fun to share as well. We'll think of something creative here, and looking forward to the upcoming CJFL games. If you're in junior, looking forward to seeing you guys ball out. I think junior's a great time, just being able to experience that for 5 years and have the best time of your lives. And hey, make sure you guys drink your water, get your vitamin D in, and go from there.
Awesome. We got playoffs coming up in high school football. Provincials are just around the corner. It's a great time of year. We got CJFL semifinals, finals, national semifinals. A lot of great stuff coming up. So thanks everyone for listening. Go ahead, Amari.
And the last part here, I forgot to mention here too. If you're looking to get like teach what you mentioned on too, we got a lot of coverage coming up with different areas, different spots. So if you'd like to have an ad placed through these episodes here, where we will go through and everything, please sure to DM us and everything. We could do like a 10-second ad, 30-second ad, whatever. We can work it out. But a lot of great exposure for those who have upcoming camps, business expansion, all those different things. We're trying to get in different markets. A lot of great things there. So feel free to reach out, or if you know what, we might reach out to you.
Yep, we might. And that is a great point, Omari. Last year, our provincial playoff high school episodes were massively huge, our biggest episodes ever. We average about 200 separate downloads per episode for our normal episodes, and we were at about 550 for those provincial ones last year. That's separate, not individual listeners. So it's probably double or triple the individual listeners who listen together in car rides. So yeah, we're always looking for sponsors to help us continue the podcast. So if you want an ad, please reach out to us. Awesome. Thanks, Wizard. Thanks, Amari. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks for having me on. It's been my pleasure.
You bet, buddy. We'll talk soon.